when we actually lost the real tribal leader, sort of like Sigmund Freud's all-father, the great patriarch, when that got deconstructed, a lot of good things came about. But archetypally, from a deeper psychological point of view, it also left a big void. It left man very weak because in earlier days, literally, the patriarchal, all-knowing, all-powerful warrior father did tell you what to do, and he did protect you from, the fears of the night. And there was a tremendous security in knowing that one, the elder on the throne, was there, and he was a stronger. 9 times out of 10, he had gone through a lot to deserve and win, that particular level of status. Remove that figure, and although other things will come about that are a benefit, the problem is that man will slowly miss that comfort, miss that figure, and then desire to turn to it in other ways. First of all, he'll feel the loss, he'll feel the freedom, and we saw this movement in the 60s. We've seen it in other epochs in the world in which there was a sort of a Dionysian moment in which people could just let their hair down and go berserk because, Big Brother didn't matter anymore and Big Father didn't matter anymore. But there's also such a unraveling as well, and you hear this very much in the music of, say, Pink Floyd and the Doors. Whether they consciously knew they were addressing these subjects or not, I don't know. You even hear it in songs by the Moody Blues. It was actually a concern for many of these people that if structure and if the structuring principles of the psyche are deconstructed too much, then you will lose it. So now you have on products, and you have in corporations, the man in the suit and tie, a surrogate other figures we spoke about earlier, all really consciously and deliberately trying to mimic and personify themselves as that all-fatherly, kingly creature. This is what you see in the stage sets of the various evangelists and church people. This is what you see in the stage sets of certain politicians. This is what you see around the imbecilic stuff you see around Obama, where he's like a pharaoh. 2 seconds later, he's being identified, as a sort of a pharaonic type of being. You'll see it definitely in the lives of many gurus, in the trappings that surround them on the altars on which they sit. It's absolutely throne-like, and so forth and so on. You have king-size cigarettes. You have, all sorts of references, and even in symbolic, the way that light is used in commercials and so on, in order to try and cement people together. And then even if you go through an average mall, like the Trafford Mall in Manchester, it's royal. It's the Palace of Versailles, for goodness sake. And all over the world, they're decorating these things in such a grandiose way, is to again work on that particular that phenomena. So this is a very important thing, and the adoration that comes when the little man, wants that authority figure, that doctor, that teacher, that guru, that expert. This is, again, all over our world. Hasn't been really deconstructed. It was just taken down a couple of notches, but basically, it's right across the world in other forms.
Yeah, it's the adoration that's being reinforced, isn't it? The adoration of royalty and people of you and you being below that.
And if you buy this beer, you're going to be a warrior. If you spray yourself with our form of deodorant or perfume, you're a queen. We're going to make you big. Try our product. It's going to just make you feel great. The Jolly Green Giant, just take our product, and all of a sudden, magically, you're going to become very inflated. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Well, we're going to take a quick music break. Michael Tsarion is my guest on the Free Truth Show on TNS Radio. You are tuned here, and we'll be taking questions later on. We're just going to take a quick music break, and we'll be back very soon. Welcome back to the Free Truth Show on tnsradio.com. I am your host, Patrick Lynch. We have with us Michael Tsarion, the author and researcher. I did a big bio at the beginning, and obviously everybody knows who he is, and we're very respectful, and I admire the work that you've been doing, so it's a great honour to speak to you. We touched on the black nobility just before the break. One example is Prince Bernhard, a Nazi by all accounts, is the leader of the black families, and he also claims descent from the House of David through the Merovingian dynasty. The Merovingians, I've noticed. I was in southern France recently, and the Chateau de Rennes was one of their strongholds for a while. Bernhard's claim is that he was acknowledged to be validated by the Carolingian dynasty that supplanted them, by other monarchs, and by the Roman Church at that time. But can he really say that he's related to Jesus, The Medici clans in Italy and the Doge families, the Viennese merchants. Are you able to offer any more insight into that?
Well, certainly. I mean, I can also mention that people should go to the works of Dr. John Coleman and also to Webster Tarpley and Jeffrey Steinberg, Lyndon LaRouche. These are the experts on this subject. Eustace Mullins as well has written on it. And absolutely, there's a network of these royal families that have been operating for thousands of years. And they've held many important ports. They're actually basically tied in, to me, they're identical with the Attonists. So when you're speaking Carolingian and you're speaking Merovingian, they originate from a group called the Sicambrian Franks. Now, Franks did not mean France in those days, it meant Germany. So they were Teutons. And the word Teuton is actually a sort of a slight mistranslation. It actually goes back to the Davids, T-U-T or T-W-T. The Teut is actually very akin to the word David. It would take too long to explain how this goes, but it's been exposed. And therefore the Davids are the commanders of the Merovingians, the commanders of Aton, the pharaonic 14th, the 18th dynasty pharaohs that I've exposed in my work. And that's why they use all this Egyptian symbolism in their various fraternities, like the Knights Templar. So we would know them more as you move into history as the Freemasons, as the Knights Templar, as the Rosicrucians, and so forth and so on. And then these high degree lodges within British Freemasonry, and I can name two. One is the Alpha Lodge, and the other is the groups like the Club of the Isles, for instance, and various other high degree lodges of Freemasonry. These were peopled by the royal figures, including the Queen of England. Two other organizations is the Order of the Garter and the Order of St. Michael and St. George, and then also an order known as the Order of St. John, of which the Queen of England is the head of. She's also the heads of the Knights of Garter, and she's the head of the Knights of St. Michael and St. John. You have her Privy Council. So
Actually, I was at Tara recently, on the hill of Tara there in Ireland, the ancient place where the Irish kings used to rule. And there was a single grave in the St. Patrick's churchyard that and a sign that related to the Knights of St. John.
Right. Yeah, they're a very powerful worldwide order that's involved in many charities on the surface. That is, of course. Yeah. And it's called St. John because it's an allegiance to John the Baptist, and John the Baptist is another one of these important characters that is actually a stand-in. There was no John the Baptist. John the Baptist is actually a stand-in. He's a symbolic figure representing somebody else, in the same way that Melchizedek, Moses, and even Jesus are symbolic stand-ins. They're characters acting on a stage, but they represent somebody else. They're like the glove puppets that have been put before us, and the things that they do and their stories, including the beheading, you see, is not only astrotheological, but it also refers to the loss of power of an earlier figure that they want to keep in an occult context. They don't want you to know about Akhenaten. They don't want you to know about Tutankhamun.
So these stories are allegories that they share amongst themselves with their knowing smiles, you say?
Exactly. And coming back to the point is that the royal families are either biologically or ideologically descended from these very figures. You have to take each individual case, but to find out which it is. But certainly the families of Oldenburg, the Habsburgs, all go back to these Merovingians. See, officially, the Carolingian line is meant to have died out. This is all nonsense. Whenever you hear anybody in heredity or Burke's peerage or any of these so-called experts, always remember they work for the crown. All right, these people are literally knighted, and they have their jobs in London at the very College of Arms that is actually funded by the royals. So take it with a pinch of salt what they tell you when they tell you that a certain line has died out or whatever, and then you go over to Lawrence Gardner or alternative people and you find out, my goodness, that's a total tissue of lies. And then out of the blue pops an Otto von Habsburg, then you read works to find out that
I'm going off topic a little bit. Sorry, I'm going off topic a little bit, but Debussy is one of my favorite composers of all time, along with Beethoven. But I recently discovered that Debussy himself is one of these guardians. They have one a generation or something in the Merovingians.
And Debussy is a highly Masonic, and all the Masonic and even Rosicrucian lodges will lure a lot of new converts by putting these famous names in front of them. Claude Debussy is one of them. Exactly.
No, that's disappointing.
But another family name is Guelph, which came from the German Welf, with W-E-L-F, but it's later transliterated into Guelph, Guelph. That's the original name of the British royal family.